Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Art of Parenting. This is your host, Jeanne-Marie. And today I have what I would consider a dear friend. We haven't met in person yet, but we've been following each other. I had Jamie on Be the Best Parent You Can Be Summit, I want to say about 8 years ago. And I think
long time ago.
Yeah. And I think from there, we've just been kind of cheering each other on. And so I'm really happy to have you back. And as we were talking offline, this is my first podcast with video. So we're trying something out new, and I feel comfortable to do it with Jamie for the first time. So thank you for being there with my support. I love it.
Always supporting women.
Yes. So important. So Jamie, thank you so much for being here. I know you're prolific on just talking about parenting, about potty training specifically, but today I think we're going to touch all of the bases because I think we kind of get each other and get parenting. So welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that I'm your first video person. I put on eyeliner.
I put on my lipstick. So there.
Awesome.
So I always like to start, Jamie, with having my guests define what the art of parenting means to them.
I would say I recently read Abigail Schreier's book, Bad Therapy, and she said, parenting is not a skill, it's a relationship. And I think, I'm launching an 18-year-old off into the world. You have older kids, I know, but I'm looking back on what made Pascal and I such a good relationship is that we stayed in relationship. I didn't consult books. I tried to be in touch with the child who was in front of me. And so I think that would be the biggest thing. And it works different for every family.
Definitely. But I love the fact that you pinpoint on relationship because that's what it's all about. And if we have multiple children, we realize how different they are, and every single child is different. So there is no cookie cutter manual to help us along.
Yes,
right?
Jeanne-Marie, I think the biggest thing that's going on right now is that we have the internet. We have so much information that parents think that they can get like the recipe, the perfect solution to raise a happy child. But there is no perfect solution. You have to parent the child in front of you, and that's going to be different for every person. Now, listen, I'm a single mom with one kid. We have much more of a democracy than, like, say, you with 4 kids. Like, every family is different. So I had the opportunity to be with Pascal in relationship way more than maybe other families, but yeah.
No, very important. Very important. Thank you. And before we get started, I'd love if you would share with our listeners and viewers a little bit about your background and how you came to do the work that you're doing today.
So I was a social worker in San Francisco. I have always loved, what do I want to say? Like feelings. I've always explored psychology, feelings. When I wrote Oh Crap Potty Training, I realized that parents were kind of messing it up with boundaries, things like that. And wait, I just want to highlight.
Yes. So this is a big day because Jamie told me this is the 10th anniversary of Oh Crap Potty Training. So pretty amazing.
And I realized that potty training was so much more about relationship than it was about actual poop in the potty. Like,
yes.
That's silly. It's more about how you converse with a kid. And what happened was when I first started potty training kids, I would do in-home potty trainings, and I could potty train a kid in like 6 hours. But then the parent would come along and mess things up. It's like, what are you doing? No, you're messing it up. So I started to realize that, oh my goodness, maybe it's our parenting that is going wrong instead of the milestones.
Right. And I guess I would maybe be careful to say wrong just because I think we're all trying our best. And sometimes we just we bring on our own history, our own crap, as one would say.
Wait, I'm going to come back at you. I'm going to
Okay.
come back at you with that.
Okay.
Because sometimes we're wrong. We do the wrong thing. Yeah.
We do. But I guess I'm just trying to be mindful to not shame parents, because I think, you know what I mean? I think it's so important to know that, yeah, I mean, I've done things wrong. Like I will admit, and it's important to have that self-awareness and to repair, to be able to say, oh, buddy, I didn't want to say it this way, or, I didn't do this right.
Jeanne-Marie, that's a really important point, because we have to be wrong in order to repair. So if we as parents can look and say, I messed that up, I did something wrong, I can repair, that's where the magic lies.
Right. Definitely. So just having that self-awareness that it's okay to get it wrong. Just
right. Like we're going to mess it up. We're going to mess it up wildly.
Right.
But if we can repair, if we can say to our kids, oh my God, I just fucked that up like entirely. And I've had those moments with Pascal, like I did that so wrong. So I think we do have to admit that we're wrong, because how else can we repair?
Yes. No, good point. And what I love too is that when we repair, I think once our child is kind of a reasonable, has a reasoning mind, we can say, how can we do this differently together, right? Because you were talking about the relationship. And sometimes it's just also asking them, like, how help me. Like this is my first time being
yes,
they're
absolutely.
So wise. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Pascal and I had this awful moment. And I was like, I don't even know how to do this differently. And he was like, well, I would like you to say this. And I was like, oh, I can say this. And he was like, I would like you to not be, because so one of my faults is that I take the oxygen out of a room. So when I get upset, I don't want to say hateful things. And so what I do is I suck it in. And I thought I was being quiet. But my son taught me, he goes, you're not being quiet. You're sucking the life out of me. Like I literally take the oxygen out of the room. And I was like, I don't know. How can I be better? And he said, well, you can tell me what's up right away. Tell me what's going on. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, Jeanne-Marie, I was like not trained in this, like as a child, right? Like my default pattern is not to tell you what's going on. So I was like, I am upset about X, Y, and Z. And he said, I can do better with X, Y, and Z. And see?
There you go. Relationship, communication. But bringing him into the solution to me is so, so important, right? We need to bring our children into how do we do this together? Parenting is collaborative work. It's like you say, relationship.
It's a relationship, right?
Exactly. Beautiful.
And that we have to keep working it though. And I think sometimes when I work with clients, it's almost like they want to do like behind the scene work. They don't want to say the thing that is actually happening. And even with 3 or 4 year olds, listen, there's some 3 or 4 year olds that are jerks. And I think with the gentle parenting that's happening right now is people say, oh, well, he's having sensory issues. He's having this, he's having that, he's having this. And I was like, or he's just being a jerk. And sometimes we need to say that and just be in actual, like living relationship with our kids.
Right. So I kind of have a hard time with what you just said, because I guess I believe in my heart that young children don't do it on purpose. And being a jerk is doing it on purpose. Like it's being intentional about your nastiness, right?
Yes.
And I think that a young child, like before that reasoning age, is really just maybe reacting to how they've been treated or what their lack of boundaries or, all of this. Like to me, I don't know as if maybe jerk would be the proper word, but it's more like spoiled. And to me, that does come from that adult's guidance or lack of guidance. Does that make sense?
It does. And I hear you on that. It is sometimes, though, I think like our kids are going to have behaviors.
Yes.
And they're going to be assholes. They're going to be jerks. They have to, because you're learning, right? Like you have to be almost like when people say they're being bullies, kids are going to be mean. They're going to be awful. When I say be a jerk, I think it's just reflective. I'm not judging the child.
Okay. Okay.
But it's reflective of this is socially unacceptable behavior.
Right.
You're being a jerk. Like sometimes I'm a jerk. Jeanne-Marie, I could be a jerk to you right now. And you could be like, hey, James, you're being a jerk. But we're adults, so we can call each other on it, right?
Right.
But with kids, sometimes I think we have to say, hey, you're being a jerk. Nobody likes you right now. And we don't have to make it I think part of the problem with modern parenting is that we're like cushioning them too much. Like, oh, no, you have sensory overload. Oh, no, you must need a safe place. That is not doing our kids any service.
So let's continue on that, because one of the things that we talked about offline is you were saying how where modern parenting you feel is messing up children. And so I would love to kind of dig a little deeper, and maybe if you could touch on some points. And for me, I think I just, I created this podcast really as support and as resource for parents. So I want us to be really, showering them with love and support in suggesting different ways to maybe think or maneuver parenting, and especially you with your expertise, and like you were telling me, you had to rewrite 𝐬𝐚𝐿 potty training because you notice how parents are evolving and how maybe information is being taken. I think, I know for me, being an older parent, I mean, I'm amazed by the whole digital world and what parents have to deal with today, right?
Oh, it's
so
tough.
It's completely different. So
yeah.
How from your vantage point, how do you feel today's parents, might be making some mistakes, and how can we help them kind of course correct?
Right. And what I'm hearing is that I might be being a little hardcore for you.
A little bit, because
I'm going to tone it down. I'm going to tone it down. I think we're overparenting just in general. And I think we're intervening too much. So like, let's take a 2 or a 3-year-old on the playground, right? And they're having a hard time in the sandbox and they're throwing sand. And I think as parents, we rush in and think that's bullying. Oh no, my kid's going to bully, But I think that's how 2 or 3-year-olds react. I think that modern parents, and I love and support modern parents, but I think we have too much information. So we have, anytime you can look up online, like you're going to be a sociopath if your kid is this, if your kid's that, right? So we're constantly worried about their well-being, and we're crippling them by intervening too much. Now, I'm Gen X. So we were the neglected generation, right? Like our parents just were like, they had a, what do you call it? An ad on television. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Like they like forgot about us. So we're now the generation that's overparenting. And I don't want to be hardcore, because I think we're all doing our best, but I am sending out an absolute rallying cry because we're messing it up. And we are overparenting in this way of intervening on every single behalf. Like if our kids have, I don't even know, like the cheese stick wasn't right at lunch and the kid's having a meltdown. And we're like, oh, you sensory. Oh, well, maybe the cheese stick wasn't right. Maybe it wasn't the right cheese stick. No, I think in some situations we have to let kids figure it out. And I think the biggest thing, so I've been really following Jonathan Haidt. I don't know if you know his work.
Yes.
Yeah. I had Peter Gray on my podcast, Lenore Skenazy.
Yes.
We've got to let them go back to neighborhood play. I swear to God, it goes back to neighborhood play. And if we as parents could stop intervening on our kids' behalf and just let them figure it out, have a hard time. Are there going to be bullying words? Yes, 100%. Are there going to be maybe even fistfights? Probably. But they figure it out and they'll do better on their own.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting because I actually just came back from a trip. I was back home in Paris for a few weeks, and there's
you live in Paris?
Yeah, I part time. Like I'm in San Diego and Paris. All of my family is in Paris, but I was just there visiting my father, and down below his apartment building, there's this beautiful park where there's a playground, and I noticed for the first time that before, when I would walk through that park, the parents would be sitting on the benches around the park, just watching their children and talking to each other and so forth. And this time I walked by and I was with my older sister and I said, have you noticed how there's a shift here? All the parents were actually on the playground with the children.
Right. We have no business being on the playground.
And I was seeing these dads and these moms like following their kids, on the and these are like beautiful structures that are all age appropriate, and nobody's going to get hurt. It's mushy ground, all of this.
Right.
But they were just there kind of hovering over these children. And to me, it was just so different from when I used to let my children just loose on the playground, and I would, chit chat and catch up with my girlfriends on the bench. So I see what you're saying.
You would chit chat on the bench with your girlfriend, and the kids would come over and say, "Mommy, she hit me. Figure it out. Figure it out." Like we did not fix their problems. And that is what is happening. We're fixing their problems from 2, 3, 4 years old. And then what's happening, Jeanne-Marie, is we have kids who can't go get a job. They have to bring their parents. My son has friends who have to go on a job interview with their parents. That's insane. But if
it is insane.
Yeah. So I don't mean to be hardcore with your audience, and trust me, anybody who's listening, I have nothing but respect and love for all moms.
No, and that's your personality, and you speak from the heart, and I think you speak from witnessing things and seeing what we are, doing to our children unintentionally.
Because my son, he's 18, watching his friends be incapacitated, cannot get a job interview without their parents. That's where I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing?
No, I hear you there. And so let's give the parents that are listening and who are going, oh my goodness, okay, what, Jamie's telling me I'm totally messing it up. Like what would be kind of that mind shift or that mindset attitude that you would want parents of young children to have today?
I think number one, we've got to let them figure it out from a very young age. So stop worrying about bullying. Like bullying is actually kind of rare. Let them have hard times. And that means some physical altercations. Sometimes it means like wrong words. But I would also say that we have to, as they get older, like say middle school, you can't rescue them. You've got to let them have a life on their own. And if we could bring back probably neighborhood play, if I had a magic wand, I would bring back neighborhood play.
Yes. Definitely. And I would say, let's also get rid of all the digital devices so that
oh my God, the phone.
Our young children are not addicted and are staying inside, and that they, just
going back to Jonathan Haidt's word, I think we have to create pledges. My son is 18. So the iPad came around. He was born in 2006. The iPad came in 2010, I think. And I was like, we didn't know. I was like, this is the best thing ever. My kid's quiet, right? Like we gave into the iPad. And now I'm looking back and Pascal is not addicted to social media at all. Like but he's a boy. He's not a girl. The girls are in big trouble right now with social media. And so I think we need to make like a social pledge of like no phone till 14, no social media till 16.
Definitely. And to me, that is a parenting choice that we have to be aware of. And I will say that I feel for the generation that is raising young children today, because they were raised with digital devices. So they already, have them. And it's just, it adds on a complexity to our parenting. Like for me, I have a 27-year-old. So when I was actually expecting her, I decided that I didn't even want a television in my house. I mean, that's how
I didn't have a television my whole life.
Well, because I had seen with my younger siblings just how, glued to the TV they were, and just how it was just another, thing that was up for debate. Is like, turn off the TV. It's time for dinner, So I just made a choice that I didn't want that. It wasn't easy because, my husband grew up with a television but he went along with it.
Well,
I'm so glad we did.
Let me interrupt you though. It's not easy. And that's what Jonathan Haidt brings up, is that it's not easy because everybody else is doing it. And so what if your kid is the social pariah? And that's what everybody fears.
And I will say that it is not an issue, because I have a daughter and a son, and I refuse to put a penny in any video game, in any Xbox.
You didn't pay for the PlayStation, the Fortnite bucks, the V-Bucks.
I didn't do that. It was a choice that I made. I mean, it was somewhat unconscious. I just didn't want to. I would much rather spend my money on traveling, on experiences, on adventures, and all of that. And my son did, suffer, quote unquote. Not really. He just would come home. Oh, it's not fair. My buddies have this. And I said, yeah, but have they gone to see the pyramids in Egypt and Mexico and all this? No. So, it's just families are different, and we make different choices, and we have different values. And I think that's what I would encourage, when we talk about making these choices as parents. It's like, you get to choose, right?
Absolutely.
You get to choose.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important.
And I think it's not about your kid being a social pariah. I think it's about, a friend of mine said recently, it's about preserving the family unit. Because once we bring in the internet, you're letting the entire world into your house.
Yes.
And so preserving the family unit, I think, is so integral.
Yes, definitely.
Board games, hanging out, not Snapchatting. Now, what do I look like? What,
No, going out in nature, going camping, having, wonderful, wonderful adventures.
We're just making dinner. And so we go back to my experience of you has been through Montessori, but going back to, it's so funny to me that parents allow the internet into their house, but they have 2 and 3-year-olds who they'll buy a kitchen, right? They'll buy the Montessori kitchen. They'll buy all the things, and the kid's making fake food. And I was like, or your kid could be in your kitchen making food. And so I think just going back to not only neighborhood play, but just family.
Integrating them into family life, like giving them responsibilities that's what they want, right? They
play house. They play house for hours, or we could play house. Because you know what, Jeanne-Marie?
Exactly.
Do you know what I do all day? I play house.
And that's all they want to do. Exactly. And that's all they want to do. And I love that. Yeah. Thank you for that. Anything else that you kind of advice that you would want to give these new parents so that we can encourage them to quote unquote, not mess it up, or because we talked about kind of the overparenting and kind of solving things for them, which I totally agree with you. Like, I think children need to experience disappointment,
hard things, hard friends, people not liking you, people being mean to you. This is all a part of life. But I think my biggest message would be slow down. Could we all just slow down and go back to just simpler life, less activities, less rushing around, less worried about their emotions, and more concerned with the family unit, just life?
Yes. I agree 100% with that. I think we've overscheduled our children, ourselves, and then our children don't know how to just be bored and figure out what else to do.
I don't know if this was like for you in Paris, but in the summer, it gets really hot where I am, and there's a fan, like you have a box fan, and you were talking to her like a robot. That was like our entire summer. That's all we did. Now I look at these kids and I'm like, oh my God, they're in 9,000 activities and everybody's so rushed. And yeah.
And parents are exhausted. I mean, it's to me, what's important to note is that all of this that we're saying is, yes, it's for the children, but it's also for you, the parent, to like chill and enjoy these moments and be with your children and just sit around and do nothing and cook together and go for walks and read, and don't overprogram everything.
Blades of grass, or like the rain coming down the window. But I want to go back to 1 second, because you had said, like, I don't, like when a kid's being a jerk. I do feel that sometimes in the family unit, we have to go back to that. Like, sometimes you're not being appropriate for the family. And I think what is exhausting a lot of parents right now, at least what I'm hearing from my clients, is over attending to every emotion. Like,
yes,
we've been told for gentle parenting that we have to stop. What's going on? Do we have to fix this? What's happening for you? And then sometimes I think we just ignore the feelings. Sometimes. Not all the time. There are big feelings.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I think sometimes it's this idea of, like you say, trying to fix everything, and it's maybe not in the moment. Like, take note, observe, and then you can come back to it and go, oh my goodness, I noticed the other day when your, so-and-so red ball went under whatever, you got so upset. How did that feel? What would you do differently? How can, have them kind of process the emotions instead of, like you say, jumping in, fixing it, solving everything for them.
But I want to hash this out with you. Do you think we actually say, oh, you had a big feeling about your ball going under the whatever, or do we just say you had a hard time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or say like
I think what we're doing though is like we're making too much about the big ball, and then the kid thinks that their experience, their feeling is fact. So if the red ball went under the bed and you were so upset, then we make almost a little too much of that instead of, wow, you had a really hard time with that.
Right. Or I would even, go so far as to not even label it and ask them, like, what, I saw that you got kind of angry, or I saw you, upset. Like, what was that about? Like, have them kind of process it. Right. And I know for me, I do a lot of work with positive discipline as well. And we talk about having kind of a place where we can go chill, right? A kind of a time out, but a positive time out.
Like a calm corner. Yeah.
Exactly. But to be able to reason and to know when to go into that calm corner, you need to know how to understand your body's way of reacting to emotions, I think. And I think that's the most important thing that we can give to our children is like,
but even in the minutia of life, like let's say the example of a red ball going under the bed, like you lost,
right,
you
right,
know, like
right,
whatever. That's not a big feeling. That's a
right,
tiny feeling.
right,
So
right,
do we make a big deal about that? Or do we say, whatever, dude, go get the red ball. It's under the bed.
right. Or
And
just empower them and say, you're going to figure this one out.
right.
Right,
Because I think that's where we're really messing it up, is I think that's where we attend to every feeling like, oh my God, your red ball, you poor thing. And then we're creating these kids who are like in college and they're like, oh my God, I'm
right,
incapacitated.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, this conversation, because to me, there's just such a fine line in how we express it to our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't want to dismiss their emotions at the same time, right? We want to.
But sometimes, don't you think we have to dismiss feelings?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm calling you to the mat.
No, I don't know as if dismissing it would be.
All right. Let me rephrase. Acknowledge, but not play into it. So I can I can see you're having
exactly
a really hard feeling, and get the fuck over it.
Right. Right. But in a very gentle way. Like for me, it's, I can see you're having a hard time and I have faith in you, or I know that you will figure it out, right? That I trust that you will figure it out. I have faith in you. I mean,
you're
to
gentler than me.
I am. To me, I'm just really, really careful of words, because they stick with us for so long. I mean, I was told things.
What are we doing? Like, okay, so here's where I come down to it. I agree with you. And that has been the bulk of my work for like 20 years. However, we're creating a generation of kids who can't handle anything.
Right.
So
I agree with you.
I'm questioning, do we need to be this gentle? Do we need to sometimes say, buck it up? Like, yes, I can see you're having a hard time, and
you're going to figure it out. And I love you. And I know you've got your inner power, and you're going to figure it out. I trust you. Go for it.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Instead of suck it up. Like, it's like there's a nuance there, right? That's all.
I got you. I know. I tend to be, like, again, a little more hardcore, but I'm blown away because I can't stand the current statistics on kids.
Okay.
And like suicide, anxiety. I'm seeing it in my own son's life. It's horrible. And I'm like, do we have to go back to like how I was raised, which is the more hardcore, suck it up? What are we doing wrong? Is your way wrong? Is my way wrong? And I'm just trying to figure it out.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm always trying to look on the positive, right? I'm this optimist, always optimist. And I feel like there is an evolution in parenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have so much more information, because we know how the brain works, because we know so much
styles, right? Like,
exactly. So we know so much more. And I think because we know so much more, we're so careful, and we don't want to mess it up, so we overcompensate. So I think it's like, sometimes it's like, stop looking at what everybody else is doing and like tune in to your child, to your relationship. Going back to what you said at the beginning, right?
It isn't a skill, it's a relationship.
Right. And so don't go looking for the magic solution or whatever. It's like, tune in to how you want to feel in this relationship, what your child needs from you. And yes, let them figure things out, and let them mess up and fall down and get back up and so forth, with lots of love and encouragement.
So for the listeners, what I'm hearing is acknowledge, but also that we can acknowledge with a lot of nuance and we can acknowledge with love. So we can
Yes.
say, yes, I can see that you're having a really hard time and I know you can do it. And
I'm here for you if you need me.
And yeah, okay. All right. I love this conversation. I've needed somebody to go against.
No, and the thing is I don't feel like we're going against. It's just this nuance of how we empower our children, right?
Yes.
How we give them the tools to be able to figure their own stuff out, right? I don't know. I mean, for me, and I'm talking from personal experience. So I have 2 young adults, excuse me, and they've wanted to travel. And, since my daughter left, she was 17 years old. And it was hard, but at the same time, I said, you're going to figure it out. And she did, and today, 10 years later, she's living her life in London and has a great job and is happy as can be. But she fell down, struggled, all of this. And I was there to love her and support her, but I never went in and fixed anything. I said, I trust you. You're going to figure it out. And there were some hard moments. Same thing with my son. He went off to community college a couple of years ago. And his father and I had told him, you really need to figure out your housing. And sure enough, didn't do much. And school started. Well, he was living out of his car for a few weeks because he hadn't figured out. I did not, I know that some people thought I was completely crazy, including my own family.
Nope.
But
not me.
I was like, you know what? You need to figure this out. And he did. He figured it out and it all worked out. It was a hard time for him, but I think he realized that within himself, he was able to figure his shit out. And that's the most important.
Well, I think through this conversation, what's happening is again, I appear very hardcore, but I swing my pendulum very far. I was like, wait, we were over here with the gentle parenting nonsense and now we're over here. And so I really appreciate this because you have helped me figure this out. I've been struggling with this, Jeanne-Marie. I've been struggling for 3 weeks since reading Jonathan Haidt's book, Abigail Shrier, Bad Therapy, Hunt, Gather, Parent. And I'm like, what are we doing? So I went a little to the right, but thank you for bringing me back.
I think it's where I've always known we're on the same page. We just, you're feisty and have that language, which to me, I guess I'm gentler in my language. And it's funny that, it's interesting we're having this conversation because this was what I went through in my own parenting with my husband, right? My parenting partner, he was very harsh I think we parent on the same, we have the same values,
level, but different
same values, but just the way of saying it. I was like, you can't say that, but it's all, but it's it all
because even with my own son, I have never, ever been that harsh. Always.
Right.
Always exactly what we're talking about. Validating the feeling, what's going on. Never, ever. I never punished my son. I've never had to. We talk about things. We just talk about things.
Beautiful. Beautiful. We've gone all over the place. I love this. It's perfect. It's perfect. So just to kind of come back to you and your work, because you are known for potty training.
I am.
And that's kind of what you've recognized with. You've written Oh Crap Potty Training. Oh Crap, I Have a Toddler. And I know now you have Oh Crap Pooping Solution course. So I think it's, why did you focus on that aspect of parenting, which I know is a difficult moment in parenting because
what aspect in particular?
The whole aspect of potty training and kind of bodily functions and why where did that come from for you, and did you struggle with it as a parent yourself? Where did that all come from?
That came out of the blue. So potty training came first, and then parenting came out of the potty training because I realized, oh my goodness, so many people are messing it up.
Struggling. Right. Right.
No. I was a social worker in San Francisco. I was 38 years old. I had not had a Pascal. I was seeing 4 and 5-year-olds in diapers. I was like, what is going on? I interviewed tons of moms, my mom's age. So to give you reference, I'm 55. My mom is 77. Interviewed like all her friends, all grandmothers. There just was a common theme about potty training. So I didn't have a kid. I was in San Francisco living my best life.
Okay.
And then what happened is I moved back to Rhode Island to be closer to my family. And I had Pascal. He was about 22 months. And I told, you hang out with all mom friends. And I told my mom friends, I said, listen, I'm out. I got to potty train for a week. And they were astounded. They were like, 22 months, you can't do that with a boy. And I was like, yeah, you can. Like, I've already potty trained like 500 kids in social work. And so I potty trained Pascal. I live in Rhode Island. It's kind of a small state. And he got famous everywhere we went.
That's funny.
People
That's
said,
so funny.
oh my God, is that the baby who's potty trained? And I was like, he's not a baby. He's 22 months. And I owned a secondhand kids store at the time with like almost like a back room that people could, hold classes, like mom groups, whatever.
Okay.
And I started holding classes. I started charging $10, $20, $30, $40, $50. And my class sold out. And pretty soon I was not selling clothes. People were like, hey, I heard about your class. I said, all right, let me put this online. Jeanne-Marie, I had the most awful website. It was a PDF, and then it started selling internationally. I never wanted to spend the rest of my life talking about poop, ever. Like, my career is awesome and awful.
Right.
But I don't know why. I'm good at it. I think I speak toddler. I really understand how the toddler brain works. A lot of times I have to help parents understand that their kids aren't teenagers. Their kids are toddlers. Right. Like there's a different brain development there. And so, that's how it.
Very cool. Very cool. And to me, yes, I mean, and for that, I know I did. And it's funny because again, this is semantic, but training, for some reason, I get irked about the word training.
Oh, you don't like that. It's learning. You like learning?
It's learning. It's awareness. It's just self-awareness. It's to me like the way that I, and this is with my Montessori background and also just my personal experience, is just setting up the environment for them and like guiding them as to.
But I also think, so let me come at you. What do you think about like job training when you go and get trained for a job? It's repetitive action, right? It's somebody tells you.
Right. Seeing it that way, definitely, that makes sense. It's just to me, bodily functions is a natural occurrence. It's like walking. Like you're not going to train a child to walk. We're just going to set up the environment.
But you have to train them for socialized behavior. Do we not have to train children sometimes for socialized behavior?
Maybe, I guess if you call modeling part of the training, yes. I mean, to me, I guess I'm more about guiding them and just modeling. Like you have to be that person for them, right?
I don't know how long you want this podcast to go on because I have to talk to you about so many things. I model all the time, accountability. I am anything you say to me. If I mess it up with us, Jeanne-Marie, I'm sorry. I take personal accountability. My son at 18 years old has zero.
But sweetie, his brain is not fully developed.
I know,
he's
but
only 18.
We model.
And you will see when he is an adult and his prefrontal cortex is complete, he will have that accountability.
All right. But now we go back to modeling toilet training. I have kids. Did you know they had to make a law in Utah that you have to be potty trained by kindergarten because kids aren't potty training till 6. So something's gone wrong.
Yes. But is that That is societal. I think that's consumerism. I mean,
I think it's pull-ups. I think it's a lot.
All of that. I mean, for there to be diapers for 6-year-old, I think is shameful. Like unless there's a medical situation. But
right.
I mean, for me, both of mine before 2, they were clean. They were on their own. They knew what their body was saying to them.
You follow the Montessori method, which we know Maria Montessori was an advocate for 12 to 18 months. I've got parents who, because of pull-ups, because of daycare, because everybody's so busy, everybody's entrenched in their activities, they are not potty training until 4 or 5 years old. So now we have to talk about training because those parents have modeled.
That is training. Yes. That is training because you've missed the mark, which we call the sensitive period, where they want to be
opportunity. Right.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, this could go on forever. I love it. Thank you so much.
This has been the funnest podcast. I got to tell you, I have done some wicked famous podcasts lately, and I have enjoyed this thoroughly. I have enjoyed.
Good.
To me, a podcast isn't questions; it's exploring ideas and trying to get through our own drama, our own shit. What are we doing wrong? And so, thank you so much.
Perfect.
This has been gratifying.
Perfect. And I would love to kind of wrap up with a kind of personal question. You mentioned your son, Pascal, who's 18. If you were to go back 19 years when you were first expecting him, any wise words that you would tell yourself knowing all that you know today?
Oh, yes. I would make it easier. I would have 2 onesies, 2 pairs of socks. I would stop buying all the crap. I would do no activities. I would have him in my kitchen. I would have him on my back, on my front, and I would have involved him more in my daily life.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Yes. And that's from your wisdom gained from working with all the parents. And that's beautiful. Yes. Thank you for that. Any parting words that you would like to leave our listeners with today, Jamie?
Well, I always leave a podcast saying potty training is not a measurement of your parenting. I think since we've covered so many topics, I think we have to go back to that. Parenting is not a skill. It's a relationship. I'm going to cry. If you can stay in relationship with your kid and parent the kid that's in front of you, I think you'll be okay.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing your beautiful wisdom and your heart and your spunkiness. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanne-Marie, because, I just loved arguing. Not arguing, discussing.
Discussing. Yes. All righty. Take good care.
All right. Thank you.